All right. Okay. Well, good job with chapter 7, lesson 1. Now we're going to go on to chapter 7, lesson 2. It's just basically a continuation of yesterday's lesson. Okay. Make sure that you have everything filled out in your book from yesterday, and make sure that you also have the homework done. Like we said before, there will be some pickups of new groceries. Then you could drop off your worksheets then. Keep your workbooks, obviously. Drop off the worksheets, and then you could pick up the remaining ones for Chapter 7. Chapter 7 will probably take us all the way to spring break because we got about 7 lessons to do, a review, and then a couple quizzes and a test to take. So be ready to do Chapter 7 for the next 2 weeks. And then, yeah, make sure you're staying up on your homework so that you can bring it in when you pick up groceries. Then I can look at it and give you guys grades and give you feedback. But please make sure you're doing everything that I'm doing in the workbook too, because eventually I'll take a look at that workbook and we'll see what you've been doing. So you're not just skipping the lessons and going to the worksheets to do them. I want to know you're doing it right. Okay, you gotta prove that you're learning the stuff, not just doing the stuff. Okay. But if you look here, I got my learning target here. It's SWABAT. So students will be able to simplify expressions. Okay, so yesterday we learned about this word expression. It is a computation or numbers, right? A number sentence without an equal sign, which can be tough because, like I said yesterday, we want to to solve these problems. Okay, today you're going to be doing something called simplifying them. Okay, so hopefully at the end you could do that. It's kind of similar to solving, but it's not solving because there's no equal sign. Simplifying an expression, though, basically leaves you with like a number. So it feels like you're solving, but you're just simplifying, okay? So today we are going to be on page 217. Okay, that's the page we're going to do. That's chapter 7, lesson 2. Hopefully you can get there. If not, pause the video, get there. We get there quick so we can continue. Okay, let's take a look at what we have today. Okay. So we've got a new word here. Okay, new vocabulary word, it's to simplify. Okay, let's take a look at what that might possibly mean. So over here, if an expression does not have a letter or a variable, then you can simplify it, which means like if it doesn't have a letter or variable, it's just a bunch of numbers. You can find its value. So you're basically solving, but you're not because you don't have an equal sign. Like for example, you can simplify 15 divided by 3, right? We all look at 15 divided by 3 and we say, well, that equals 5. But we're working with an expression here. So 15 divided by 5 actually combines or simplifies to 5, right? Because if you take 15 and divide it into 3 parts, you literally just get 5 left, okay? So that actually looks like an answer to solving the problem, but it's actually you simplifying that expression, which is kind of cool. So you ask yourself, well, how do I simplify an expression that has more than one operation too, right? This has one operation. Sometimes you got 2 steps to do, right? For example, look at this. 12 minus 2, 12 minus 3 times 2, right? I've got 2 operations there. I have to subtract and have to multiply. But you have to ask yourself, do I subtract first or do I multiply first? That's the big question. Okay, hopefully on 7-1 you learned which ones you do first. If not, here it is again. This is extremely key. You might want to have this out when you're doing your homework, okay? So you don't mess up these steps. Let's look at it. It says perform operations inside the parentheses first, okay? Look for parentheses. No parentheses, continue on, or do the parentheses first. Then your next step is multiply and divide from left to right. Okay, you can start on the left and just move yourself to the right if there's only multiplying and division. Okay, step 3, you can add and subtract from left to right. So it's basically look at your parentheses, do multiplication, division, left to right, and then add, subtract, left to right. So we got to do some examples so you know exactly what this looks like. Okay, so let's take a look. It says 12 minus 3 times 2. What did it do here? How did it get this 12 minus 6? Well, it made a jump, didn't it? See this right here? This 3 times 2. You have to take 3 times 2 first because multiplying and dividing come before, right? See, multiplying and dividing come before the subtraction. So we actually have to multiply that first. We get 3 times 2, which is 6. See how I combined those, this group? I combined that into 6. I basically simplified 3 times 2 is 6. But we have to put this in here. We just substitute it, right? So we end up with 12 minus 6. We can simplify that by subtracting. We should all know that 12 minus 6 is 6. I could show you what not to do. I could show you how not to get this right. So if I do 12 minus 3, right? So 12 minus 3 is what? 9. And then I take it times 2, right? Let's say I do that. Then I get 18. It says it's 6, not 18. So if you simply just do this problem left or right, you're going to get it wrong. This is the wrong way to do things. You don't want to do that. You have to follow the order of operations, which would tell us to do multiplication first, then the subtraction. So it gets kind of goofy in here, and it gets kind of tricky because you can't just look at this problem and zip left or right. You have to stop, think about the order of operations. Do I have parentheses? Do I have multiplication and division? And then finally adding and subtracting. Okay, so let's take a look at some more problems here. Follow the order of operations to simplify. Okay, we got a lot going on here. We have 25 minus, and then inside of the parentheses, got this group of 5 plus 3, and then we take it times, or 5 plus 2. I don't know what's going on with my 2's and 3's today. I'll multiply by 3. Let's think about this. Do I have parentheses? Yes. Do I have multiplication? Yes. Do I have subtraction? Yes. So this problem is really confusing to me sometimes because I say, first I have to do the parentheses, then I multiply by 3, and then all of a sudden I have to take that quantity and subtract it from this 25. So you basically have to replace. Okay, so it steps you through it. See? Parentheses, multiply, and divide, and then add and subtract. So we want to follow these 3 steps, extremely important, these 3 steps, every time we look at one of these math problems to simplify. All right, here we go. Perform the operations inside the parentheses. All right, so I need to do this. So I have to say, what is 5 plus 2, right? So I'm going to start rewriting the problem. I keep this the same because I told me not to do that first, but now I can rewrite this 5 plus 2 is what? 7. Okay, and then I want to put this times 3 on there again. See, I rewrote the problem, but I grouped this together. So now I'm done with that simplification, and I'm left with this. Now it tells me what? It says I need to multiply and divide. Okay, so that subtracts, so I need to skip it, and I do this multiplication group right here. So see that group? Those are combined by this multiplication sign. So now I need to solve those. Okay, so I rewrite the 25 minus, because I haven't messed with that yet, because that's my last step. Then I take 7 times 3, and I get 21. I combined this. Okay, or I should say simplified. Now, all I need to do is add and subtract left to right. So it's just subtraction, so I take 25 minus 21. Okay, you can do it like this, okay, and solve. Now we basically have simplified it to the number 4. So all this back up here is a long way of saying 4. Those two are exactly the same. 25 minus the quantity of 5 plus 2 times 3, broken down and simplified, gives us 4. Okay, you didn't solve it because there's no equals, but you did indeed simplify it down to 4. Okay, so now we look at the rest of the problems here, right? Kind of throwing a lot at you here. You need to know how to work with fractions. You need to know how to work with decimals. And also you have to know how to do order of operations. Okay, so let's take a look at number 2. Okay. You have to do your order of operations check. Okay, parentheses, None in there, so don't have to worry about that. Second step is multiply and divide. I have this right here. This is division. So I'm going to group that together and do that first. Okay, so I rewrite the stuff I left alone. 5 plus, and then solve this. 16 divided by 4 is simplified to 4. Now I'm left with this 5 plus 4. Okay, we know what 5 plus 4 is. We simplify that to 9. Okay, so you see how I simplified that down? I group the things I have to do first, rewrite it with what's left over, and then I get 9. Okay, so let's take a look at number 3. And you can always go back and rewind and watch that last one if you need more explanations. Okay, I'll try to explain it the best I can. If I'll probably still have Zoom running up right now, so if you need to go back over to Zoom and ask me questions, feel free to do that. Okay, the link will be open. All right, look at number 3. Beside your head, you should be thinking parentheses. Do I have a parentheses in there? I do. I need to do this step first. Okay, I rewrite this. I rewrite the 10 times, and then I want to find out what that is. So I'm literally going to take 0.3 plus 0.2, solve that. I'm simplifying that. 3 plus 2 is 5. Bring down my decimal. There we go. So I know that quantity inside of this parentheses is actually equal to 0.5. So I'm going to put this over here, 0.5. Now I'm left with 10 times 0.5. Now I have to actually solve that. So I take 10 times 0.5. Okay, now I take multiply 5 times 0, 0. 5 times 1 is 5. Okay. Now I could try this 0, but not, since I know this 0 isn't anything, I don't really have to do it, but I can. Placeholder, 0, 0, add it all up. See, I'm still left with just 50. Oh, don't forget the decimal here. Okay, so the decimal's over twice, so I have to move my decimal over twice. So actually my answer is 0.50. Okay. There's your answer. Okay. Actually, I think, yep, that's right. Yeah, I just got to make sure. Sometimes inside of my head I have to make sure I have the answer right. Okay, which makes sense because that moved over one spot because I took it times 10. Very good. All right, so parentheses, and then I can multiply. All right, let's take a look at number 4. Parentheses, nope, no parentheses. So then I have to start working with division and multiplication left to right. Okay, so I have division here, and I have multiplication over here. Okay, this is a tricky problem because I need to take care of this division and this multiplication first, and I need to leave this guy alone because he needs to be done last. So watch what I do. I group. See how I created 2 groups inside of there? So I'm going to do 20 divided by 4. Then I'm going to do 3 times 3. And then I'm going to combine them with addition. So let's see how this is simplified. What is 20 divided by 4? That is 5. So this becomes 5. 3 times 3 becomes a 9. And what do I put back in the middle? The addition, because I need to do that on my next step. Okay, then I just take 5 plus 9. Okay, which equals 14. Okay. You will notice I'm not writing an equal sign anywhere on this sheet of paper because we're still dealing with expressions. Okay. So you guys got to make sure that you're watching out for order of operations and then applying everything that you knew from the past. Okay. So let's go ahead. I'm going to do a couple more problems on this sheet of paper. And then after you get done with this video, you can work on 7.2, okay, the homework. Let's take a look. All right, let's jump down to this one. Okay, number 8. All right, so I have addition, multiplication, and addition. So at this point, you're like, I don't have parentheses. I know I have to do multiply and divide first, and then add and subtract last, basically. Okay, these are addition. Okay, these are multiplying, and these are addition. I want to attack this one first. See that multiplication symbol? See how they're connected? Okay, that's a group. They are grouped together by multiplying, and I can simplify that. So this is getting tricky. You have to find that operation right there, and then look at the numbers by it and group it together. So I group that. Make everything else stay the same. So rewrite it. 0.3 plus whatever this is, right? And then you have to add this at the end. So let's go ahead and let's simplify this. Okay, what is 0.1 times 5? So I'm going to take 0.1 times 5. Okay, 5 times 1 is 5. Decimal points over one spot, so my decimal point goes over one spot. I have simplified this group to 0.5. Okay, now I rewrite what's left plus 0.02. Now I look at my new expression here. 0.3 plus 0.5 plus 0.2. Okay, so now I just have addition left. I can just simply go left or right. I'm going to take 0.3 plus 0.5. Okay, simplify that. 3 plus 5 is 8. Don't forget your decimal. Now I rewrite my 0.2, right? Because I simplified these two. And now I'm left with this, that. Now I could say 0.8 plus 0.2. Simplified, so 0.8 plus 0.2. 8 plus 2 is 10. Okay, bring down my decimal, makes it a 1. Okay, so actually it's simplified to 1.0. There's my answer. Notice once again, no equal sign because it's an expression. Okay, if you're asked to write an expression, do not write an equals because there's no equals in expressions. Here we go. Okay, next. Let's take a look at number 9. Oh, no parentheses. But we have addition and division. What goes first, addition or division? Right, the division comes first. Because don't forget, here's our rules that we need to follow. Math likes rules. These are our rules we need to follow in these lessons. Parentheses, multiply, divide, add, subtract. Okay, here we go. Since this division is between the 9 and the 0.1, that's my group. Okay, I group that together. And this 18 and plus, right, haven't touched that yet, so I have to rewrite it. So now I have to take 9 divided by 0.1. Okay, I might work this out down here. So I take 9 divided by 0.1. So now all that the dividing decimal things that we did a long time ago comes into play. Okay. To review, we cannot have a decimal out here. We need to move it, right? Move it one place. Okay, so then that becomes a 1. So I'll rewrite this. 1 divided by, now this, if you move the decimal out here once, don't forget you have to move the decimal in here once. The decimal is sitting right here, so I have to move it over one spot, and this becomes 90. Okay. I know some of you might have forgotten how to move that decimal and do this, but you're probably like, oh yeah, I remember how to do that. How many times you have it out here moved is how many times you have to move it in here. If there's nothing there, you just add zeros to compensate for that one move, right? So there was one move, you don't see a decimal. You put a 0 in there because it was one move, 1 0. All right, so now we just have to take 90 divided by 1. Okay, so anything divided by 1 is itself, so I don't have to solve this thing. So 90 divided by 1 will be 90. Okay, so now we solve this problem. 9 divided by 0.1 is 90, because there's 90 of these in there. So I rewrite this 90 up here. Now I have this 18 plus 90. I simplify it, put it together, which is basically saying 90 plus 18. 8. 9 plus 1 is 10. There we go. 108. So we simplified it. So if I take a look and I say 18 plus 9 divided by 0.01 can be simplified to 18 plus 90, which can be simplified to 180. So all of this right here, we could just write as 180. Okay, so you're like, well, why don't I just write 180? Well, sometimes we have to solve problems like this. I see these on Facebook all the time, like people giving these math quizzes on Facebook to say like, oh, solve this, bet you all will get it wrong. Well, a lot of people get it wrong because they just simply go 18 divided by 9, right? Or 18 plus 9. So you take 18 plus 9 and then they divide it by 0.01. That's wrong. You got to do your steps first. Okay, we'll do one more problem here. Okay, number 10. No parentheses, they went easy on you. Now look, I have division and I have multiplication. This is a good one to practice because look, that both falls under step 2. So I don't have parentheses, which is good. But now it says multiply and divide. Okay, so which one do I do first, multiply or divide? Here's the key. It says from left to right. So you determine which one you do first by simply going left to right. Because take a look at this problem. I have division and multiplication. That's it. So I just simply go left to right because that's the same step. It's step number 2. So I just say 36 divided by 3. And then I take that number times 2. So we can group this because it comes first. So 36 divided by 3. Okay. And then we're going to take that times 2. Okay, maybe you could, I'll give you a couple seconds to do 36 divided by 3. See if you get that before I do. But some of you have already got it. Probably some of you already had it before I even started. Okay, but 36 divided by 3 is 12. Now we can simplify 12 times 2. Okay, 12 times 2 if you need to. 12 times 2, 24. There you have it. So really, 36 divided by 3 times 2 actually means 24. Okay, I'm not solving, I'm simplifying. I'm taking all those numbers and I'm putting them into one number. But your big thing is this. Here's your big thing. That's where you'll go right or you'll go wrong. Make sure you do parentheses. Then you could do multiply, divide, and then you could do add and subtract. You have to ask yourself these steps every time you do a problem. Is there parentheses? Do I have to multiply and divide if I do group those numbers? And then lastly, add and subtract. If you don't do these steps, you might do the math completely right, but out of order. That's why it's called order of operations. You need to do those in order or else you'll get the wrong answer. Okay, so be really, really careful. So let's revisit this. Okay, students will be able to simplify expressions. If you can simplify expressions like we did, then you've also been successful. Okay, you'll prove that you're successful by completing worksheet 7.2. Okay, it even says right here, follow the order of operations to simplify 27 divided by whatever is 3 times 3, and then added 17. You know you have to do parentheses first. Look, it steps it for you. Look it, on your homework it even has the steps. Operations, inside the parentheses, multiply and divide left to right, then add and subtract. This is very key. So you're basically going to put what's in here for parentheses and work your way down. Just like the first problem we did right here. Okay, if you'll notice, these two problems look almost identical. So if you don't understand it, you go back to the video at the beginning and figure out how to do this, or you should just be able to reference your book since you wrote it down. Okay, so then we take a look at some of these problems here. There's a lot of them. Okay, like this one could be tricky because you have mixed number right there, and then you have a fraction. Okay, you have to remember how to convert these mixed numbers into impropers. Probably got to get common denominators. That's going to be That'll be probably, these two problems will be your trickiest problems, okay? Number 12 and number 5. Okay, so try to simplify these. Try to show work. If you can't fit it on here, okay, use a loose leaf sheet of paper. You could use the back. Okay, but here you go. Simplify expressions. Here's your homework sheet for 7.2. If you finish it and feel like taking a picture of it and sending it to me, great. If not, I need it collected. Make sure you did the workbook because I will be looking at that. Do the homework, and then also make sure that you're logging onto your IXL account. Log in or else I can't track it. Getting that at least 30 minutes. A couple other things, just reminders. Do not go on anything uneducational till 1 o'clock. Okay, we got school from 9 to 1. And then make sure that tomorrow you're checking in with Miss E for reading. Okay, you're doing your Bible, you're reading assignments, you're listening to a series of unfortunate events from your teacher. You're coming back for math lessons. You're doing the homework in IXL. Okay? All right, well, there you go. Now you have it. 7.2 will be completed, and I will be posting a video for 7.3 tomorrow. We'll see you later. If you have any questions, go back on Zoom so you can ask me. Okay? I know this video takes about 27 minutes, so you should be on it for 27 minutes. And I might be seeing you popping back up for questions. And we'll be watching you on GoGuardian. Thank you.